Do you know what's absolute pants?
Do tell.
I've been training for the marathon for the past 4 months, and the thing's on Sunday, and now my body decides to get sick. Like, it's so demoralizing. You put in all this work, and it's like, well, looks like it's all for naught. It's like, oh.
You know what that is, man?
What is that?
That's Eliud Kipchoge. He knows you're coming for him. He knows you're coming for his crown. And he's like, this is too much. This is too much of a risk.
Oh, that's brilliant. I honestly didn't think you know about Kipchoge.
Well, he broke the 2-hour marathon limit. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but like
that's a huge deal. Like,
oh, for sure. But like, I always underestimate how much that gets out of running circles. Like, I always assume that only people who are into running know about this, and everyone else is like, I don't have a clue what's going on. Like, if some like, I don't know, Olympic ski shooter or whatever did something amazing, no one but ski shooters are going to know what's going on. I assume it's the same with running, but evidently not.
I don't know. I mean, I think marathon in general has a bigger outreach than biathlon in general.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Do you know what I really dislike?
Biathlons.
Well, I don't know. I've never done a biathlon, but you have a marathon, right?
Yeah.
You have a half marathon, right?
Mm-hmm.
I dislike the terminology of a mini marathon, which is a 10K. And it's kind of like, there comes a point where the word marathon is the wrong branding on a race. Because like, you could call a 5K like an 8th marathon or whatever. But marathon implies like grueling distance. And I don't think that should be applied to 5 and 10Ks. It always annoys me when people are like, oh, I did a mini marathon. It's like, no, you did a 10K. And that's great. But don't call it a marathon. This is silly.
Take it up with the people who call it that. Take it up with the organizers, not with the racers.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, sorry. I mean that as in, like, it annoys me when companies brand their things as mini marathons. But yeah, anyhow.
Is a sprint a nano marathon?
Could be. You see how silly that is. Like, I know it's obviously a joke, but the notion of like the word marathon, like it should only be for the really long distance races.
So how long is a marathon in metric?
It's 42 point something kilometers.
42 kilometers, let's say. So 42,000 divided by 1,000 million billion. Hold on. Meters.
Computing.
So 4.2 by 10 to the minus 5. So a nanomarathon is like 42 micrometers. Micrometers. 42 micrometers is a nanomarathon. I've never run a marathon, but I have run literally millions of nanomarathons.
You eat those nanomarathons for breakfast, man. They're nothing to you. You know what I really like? I really like when it goes the opposite way. When people label extremely grueling long races as really short things. Like, you get like sometimes some like mad hipster races will have like it branded as a fun run, but like it's an ultra marathon. Like, that's I love that so much. Like, that I'm all for, but I'm not for the other way, you know?
Do a fun run across the Ross Ice Shelf.
What's the Ross Ice Shelf?
It's a big... Well, it probably doesn't exist anymore. It's in Antarctica.
It probably doesn't exist anymore. God, you've just made Greta so sad.
Well, I haven't made Greta sad. Global late-stage capitalism has made Greta sad.
That is fair. Do you know what? I am reticent to talk about this on air. I might cut this because if I say it on air, it must happen. But part of me is seriously considering, Bill, running from coast to coast in Ireland.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I did the maths, and like it's really hard. It's really tough, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility for an amateur runner to run from the likes of Dublin to Galway. Which, for people listening, if this stays in, It's like, I think it's like 160-ish kilometers. Oh no, it's 200 kilometers. So like that's maybe 120, 30 miles, maybe something like that for Americans. You'd have to do the exact conversion. But it's doable in a day. At like slow running for 24 hours straight. And part of me is kind of like, that's a really interesting thing. That that's like quite, not everyone attempts such a thing. I'm like, oh, I could do that. We'll see. First I need to do a marathon though.
Yeah, get that done first.
We'll do that, and then we'll do an ultra, and then we'll run across the country. It'll be great crack. Anywho.
And then run across a larger country. Run across England then afterwards. Run from like Liverpool to Scarborough.
Yeah, and then end up with like Russia.
Yeah.
That would be so terrible.
Petersburg to Vladivostok.
That would be the worst. Like, even if you gave yourself like, I don't know, a year to do it or whatever. Can you imagine just like having to put in the days in Siberia? Like, oh.
Also bears.
All right. So, first of all, we need to apologize to everyone for being so horrifically late with this podcast. There was no podcast in September, and there will just about be a podcast in October. The reasons for this, we're not going to go into too much details, or at least I'll talk only from my end. Kazakhstan derailed things slightly, and then I just had a torrid time with the video, and it didn't get out on time, and that delayed things. And so it was just lots of stuff didn't work smoothly for the past like month and a half, and this is why it is late. Now, to compensate for this, myself and Bill were going to record today, and then hopefully if we can work out logistics, we'll record next week and do another podcast, and then also do the standard November podcast. So hopefully there'll be 3 podcasts relatively soon to make up. So you still get the same amount of podcasts as promised per year. It's just that they've been time has been made elastic on these things. So apologies for being late.
Sorry about that, guys.
Stuff happens, you know. And the other thing of pre-show fodder is we have new merch. There is new merch.
Oh.
New merchandise, and this month we are gone is the licorice. This month we are celebrating Bill Polian with a line of Bill Polian inspired merch. Basically a hoodie and 2 t-shirts, one for men and one for women. They are white because obviously they are white, and there's a picture of Bill Polian on the front. I can't remember whether or not it has the words Bill Polian on the back. I was toying with different designs, so you can go check that out. Links in the show notes to merch. Go pick up the merch. Represent Bill Polian, love of ages, all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Please let me know if anyone actually buys this. This is just hilarious.
Oh, Bill, man, I totally will. 100%. I'm going to be monitoring it, and if anyone picks up anything, there will be tweets. It'd be great.
Well, I'm definitely going to buy one.
Are you going to buy one?
Of course.
Oh, that's class. That's brilliant. You're gonna. I suppose you get 50% off because like you're going to get the revenue from. You're going to make some money back on that. That actually works out quite well. You get a discount.
Apparently, it does say Bill Polian on the back, according to the website here.
There you go. So I've left the words Bill Polian on the back. Again, I couldn't remember. I was doing some. I was doing various different designs. So white garment. Big Bill Polian, as in the character on the front, and then the letters Bill Polian, the word Bill Polian on the back.
Jesus Christ.
In white, which is the customary color when discussing these things. So yeah, links in the show notes. Go check it out. I worry for next month, man, because I'm running out of like memes to put in merch for. So,
we'll crank some out today. We'll crank out some new ones today.
We will. We'll bust out some new memes. It might be a case of I might need to reincarnate some of the older memes, but like, I don't know, make like Betamash, Crinkle Dash, fridge magnets or something. I love this merch stuff. Anyhow, so that is pre-show. Shall we do some follow-up?
So first thing we got here is an email from long-time listener and frequent contributor. Hold on, I'm waiting for this to load. And I ran out of things to say while I was waiting for this very slow internet to load. Here we go. From long-time listener and frequent contributor and large fan, Asmodean _. And Asmodean has sent in the flag of the Joseon dynasty. Now, I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly. Hold on, let me check.
Probably not.
Joseon. Oh, thank you for your support, your faith in me. Joseon, does it say anything here in Wikipedia? It doesn't. But you know what? That's like romanization of a Korean word, so it's probably completely wrong anyway. So I'm not to blame. Joseon dynasty flag. Edgar, I'm gonna guess that these are submissions for Flag Corner.
I would imagine these are submissions for Flag Corner. Are you looking at, because Asmodean has sent us 2 links. Which link are you looking at here?
I'm looking at the first one, corwflags.com.
Yes, okay. Do you want to describe that one?
It's I don't know, an off square, I guess, is the way I describe this. It's like slightly thinner than it is tall, of yellow, fringed in sort of red flames. And on it there is, so against the yellow background, there's a black and red dragon partially obscured by grey clouds.
Blue clouds, man.
Blue-grey clouds. And the dragon has 2 green horns. This is busy.
And the dragon is also holding some sort of thing in his arm. It's it's a red circle with like little white parts.
Yeah, attempting to. Oh, yeah. Maybe he's got like an apple or something.
Is he eating an apple? Maybe the dragon's eating an apple. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, like a I don't know, a pink lady maybe.
Did you hear that they invented a new apple?
No.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't swear. Actually, it's Flag Corner. Of course I can swear. What was it called? Damn it. Okay, but they invented a new apple. New apple breed?
Honeycrisp. Or is it... Cosmic Crisp.
Yeah, the Cosmic Crisp apple. I remember it because the name is crazy. Like, it's very kind of like quark and gluon and things like that.
Yeah.
But I remember, so I was reading about this new apple and people talking about like, oh, how hard it was to breed and all this sort of jazz. And I was like, wow, this thing must look seriously impressive. And then you go Google it and it looks like any old apple. Like, there is no difference between this and any apple I've seen before.
Well, it's very different to like a Granny Smith because it's red.
Yeah, but
not green.
Yeah, but like relative to other red apples, Bill. So I remember being all like, "Wow, that's a weird existence for apple breeders who like spend like literal decades breeding these things, and then they're all like
20 years of development."
Yeah, it's crazy. Links in show notes for anyone who's interested. It's massively underwhelming. Anyhow, so dragon here might be chowing down on an apple.
On a Cosmic Crisp.
It's very busy. Now, I'm assuming that this is actually not what the flag looked like. I'm beginning to realize more and more that many representations of flags on the internet are actually people's drawing of said flag. This is probably someone's rendering of that flag. But even if the flag is, like, stylistically looks a little bit better, it's still super busy. Way too busy. It's like a painting. It's like, it's not a flag. And even the one below it is similar. It's all just super busy. When we get to Korea 1882, links in the show notes, all this, folks, then it starts to like look like the modern Korean flag. I really like the swirl, Bill. I think they should have kept the swirl.
Like, kept it swirlier rather than just an S dividing the two halves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It looks with the swirl, again, links in the show notes, with the old school swirl, it looks a little bit less like the Pepsi logo.
Yeah.
And I really like that swirl. I think it looks really good. But yeah, anyway, links in the show notes. The other flag that Asmo sent in was it's the Josong, same crowd as before, except it's a Navy flag. What do you think of this flag, Bill? Links in the show notes.
It's a lot. It's busy for sure. So I'm going to have a quick go at describing it.
Sure, go for it.
It's a black flag, not quite square. In the center, there's a number of concentric circles. The very center one is black with a yellow ring around it.
Mm-hmm.
Then surrounding that is a ring that's sort of dark red on the left side and navy on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And surrounding that, there's a ring that's navy on the left side and dark red on the right side. Then surrounding that, there are 8 squares or 8 trigrams from the I Ching, which I think is on the current Korean flag. Well, there's 4 of them on the current Korean flag.
Yeah.
So there's 4 of the I Ching trigrams. Here there's 8. And then surrounding that, also arranged in a circle, are 8 symbols that are composed of a number of white circles connected by lines in various ways, according to no explicit pattern that I can see.
It's mad. This one, like, it looks like it could be straight out of like a sci-fi movie. It's got a really weird, like, futuristic alien sort of aesthetic to it. Like
it looks like the interface from an alien computer system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and sure. When was this navy about? The Johnson Navy, like the 1800s, the like late, mid to late 1800s. Like it's crazy how modern that looks like. It's mental. It looks like I honestly think it looks like a work of like modern art. It doesn't work as a flag. It's way too busy, but there's something about it where I'm like, this isn't really shit. This is just maybe not optimal.
It's very striking and it's kind of weird, and I sort of dig it for that reason.
Yeah, and the eye in the middle is really kind of, it looks at you like it's very.
Oh yeah, it is looking at me. I'm gonna close this tab. I don't like that.
don't look at the eye. So yeah, go check that one out, listeners. It's an interesting flag, very interesting.
Yeah,
cool. Next topic.
Oh well, I just want to point out that the symbols around the outside are a magic square.
What symbols?
The white circles connected by the white lines.
Yeah,
they form a magic square.
How do they form a magic square?
So if you look at it, where are we now? So if we look, say, down the left side, there's 2 at the top, right?
Yeah.
In like the top left corner. Then along the left side, there's 9, and then there's 4 at the bottom. And that adds up to, what's that, 15?
Yeah.
Is that right? And if you look across the bottom, you've got 4, 3, and 8. That adds up to 13. It says this in Wikipedia. This is a magic square that is present in. It says it's from Chinese, some Chinese like divination and mathematical or numerological system or something. So there is a symbolism and a meaning behind it. It isn't totally random. It's not clear if you don't have that cultural context, I guess, what it is.
That's crazy. Like, obviously, I would never expect it to be random. Like, there's always a reason why people put stuff on their flags. But that's really, that appeals to the maths nerd in me. I like that. Yeah. Moving on.
Moving on.
The next 2 points. I'll take the next 2 points actually because they're directed at me. Adam Vargas sent us an email with like 2-ish questions. I'm summarizing here, Adam, so just bear with me. Nuts and bolts of it. Question number 1 is: can you cover ocean upwelling in a future video? The answer to that is a really quick no, because it's so niche that most people won't have any interest, and it doesn't really have much a massive effect on like storytelling if you're setting a story in a world or needing to build a world for a story. That's not a thing that I'm looking at covering. The other question that Adam writes is, do you remember ages ago, Bill, I did a episode on circulation cells, the atmosphere of planets?
Yes.
They want to know basically. So I presented, here's what the circulation cells would look like if a planet spins half as fast as Earth, and here's what it looks like if it spins twice as fast, etc. And Adam was looking for cutoff points between the various different models. Those don't exist. I don't think anyone knows or at least I've never read any sort of paper that discusses what happens in the transition points between them and where those transition points are. So like I said in said video, your best option is choose a circulation regime that is closest to your planet and just go with that and don't worry too much, fudge the rest of the details. So yeah, there we go. Some questions for Adam, asked and answered.
Excellent.
The other one, there's one more from Jack Green that I'll take as well, actually, because I think this is directed at me as well. Jack Green sent us in an email, was asking about the plausibility of non-locked double planets. So if I recall the email correctly, Jack was proposing, could you have two planets, like double planet system, orbiting close into a low mass star, in a location where the planets would usually be locked, but because of the nature of there being double planets, they wouldn't be locked. They'd be still rotating around each other. That strike, I don't know, because I am not an astronomer, that strikes me as it would work in fiction. I think in practice, because of how strong the gravitational pull from the star is, I think in practice it would disrupt that system and would kick one of the double planets away, and you'd be left with a single planet that would slowly slow down and lock itself to the star in practice. But right. I think you could easily hand with it. I think people would totally buy double planet system close into star. I don't think that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That seems plausible. And I mean, I'm sure there would be at some point in the history of that system where they would be locked for a while, which would be long enough to tell a story in. Or where they would be unlocked for a while, which and would face each other, which would be long enough to tell a story in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you want to take the last one?
Sure. So it's another email from Zen10, another frequent writer, who is asking about radiosynthesis as as the primary source for a chain of life. So I had a vague glimmer of an idea for something for world building, they write. What about a planet where the dominant form of energy at the bottom of the food chain isn't solar or chemical energy, but radioactive particle decay? Maybe there are grazers that are the primary energy gatherers who go around finding radioactive material to eat, and then other creatures eat them and whatnot. There is one example in real life, although it's not very well understood. So they sent us a link to radiotrophic fungus, which is a thing that has been found on Earth, which are fungi that appear to use radiation, like gamma radiation, to get energy, which is cool as heck.
And that's like, I read this email and reading it in chronological order, Zen10 asked this question, like, there's no way that's plausible. Any biological life form, like their DNA would be ripped apart by radiation, would never occur in real life. And then at the end of the email, it's like, oh yeah, here's a fungus that does it. I'm like, how is it doing? Like, how is it not dying? Or maybe is gamma radiation not like the same radiation that rips apart DNA? Like, how is a biological organism not being destroyed by this? Like, it's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it does do that, damage DNA and stuff. And
then, so like, is this the DNA of this fungus? Is it just more resilient? Like, what? I realize, Bill, this is rhetorical because you don't study fungi, but like, it strikes me as so weird that this could even be a thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I think it's very cool. And I've toyed around with this as a potential thing in one of my settings a couple of years ago, because I heard about this, and they're saying here in this article that Zen10 linked that it was found in and around Chernobyl. I'm fairly sure I read something before about so this is a fungus that did this. I'm fairly sure I read something about a bacterium that does this, that lives like really, really deep in the Earth's crust. I thought, and that's where I think I got the idea for my world building thing. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have to try and find that. But yeah, I mean, it's a form of energy. So yeah, why not? And not everything alive has to have DNA. There are other potential systems of ordering life.
Yeah, but but isn't radioactivity just detrimental to like organic compounds as a whole? Like even if you replace the DNA with some other thing, RNA, is that another thing? I'm very bad at biology.
Well, they'd be basically like the same components there. RNA is a single strand as opposed to two strands, as far as I remember.
Okay. I guess maybe you could have just a different. Maybe you had like silicone-based life or something. I'm completely talking away.
Yeah, things like that.
Okay.
Or
cool.
I mean, if something happened in an environment where that was the norm, then it would only happen if it evolved with systems to deal with radiation, or if it made it a central functional thing of it, then it would never be a problem, because that would just be the context it existed in.
Yeah, that's fair. While we're on the topic of biology, I'm going to link in the show notes Biblaridian's series on speculative like alt biology.
Cool.
He released part 3 of the series like a couple of days ago, and it is so good. It is like scary good. Like I'm embarrassed at like how good it is. I remember I picked up I bought Storm of Swords, the George R. R. Martin book.
Yeah.
And on the back of it, this is related, but don't worry. On the back of it, it said something, I think it was an Anne McCaffrey quote or whatever, where she was like, you know, when you read a book that's just so like comprehensive and big and awe-inspiring that you put it down and you kind of question your life choices about becoming an author. Yeah, that was this book. And I had the same thing with Biblaridian's videos. Like, it's so good. Like, his series is so good that, like, it questions. I was sitting there, I was like, maybe I should quit this and just, like, hand it over to Biblaridian, because clearly this guy's amazing. I absolutely adore this series. People gotta go check it out. It's truly brilliant. Links in the show notes.
Okay.
And we talked, myself and Biblaridian talked about this. He was like, and it was really nice of him that he kind of like asked my permission to do this, which I thought was weird. But he was like, he didn't want to like cause any beef. He was like, I don't know if this is a topic you want to cover, but would it be okay if I did? And I was like, yeah, of course, you do whatever you want. And in the back of my mind, I was like, he'll cover that. And then eventually I'll also cover it. And there'll be 2 things said about the topic. It'll be great. And now I feel no compulsion to cover it because it's just so comprehensive and good. I'm like, I can't add anything. Like, there's nothing I could say that would improve upon this. It's so good. Anyhow, there we go.
Nice.
So that was all of the email. Oh, real quick, I was talking to an Artifexian fan IRL, and they were saying you never give out the email address to the show, which is kind of by design, partly. But I figured I'd capitulate a little bit here and actually give out the email address. So if you want to email us, it'll be in the show notes. It'll be like a contact us link, but also the email address is podcast@artifexian.com. So yeah, leave us your emails and we'll get to them in future shows.
Super
cool. All right, let's do some Reddit, shall we?
Let's do some Reddit.
I can go super quick to some of the stuff we got from ShahabX09, u/ShahabX09, mentioned that we talked about the Manchu language and how we were speculating about whether or not it has a gender system. They confirm that Manchu does not have a gender system. It's sound symbolism.
Right.
And I believe, I looked into it afterwards, I believe it didn't have a gender system because it didn't demand any sort of agreement with anything else around it. And that would be the kind of like one of the defining traits about it. So it wasn't PIE bias or anything. Or IE bias. It was literally just, it doesn't have a gender system.
Cool.
Rec Jensen, u/Rec Jensen, brought up a very interesting point relating to sandwiches, that the number of sandwiches is determined by the number of people eating the sandwiches. And this is now my philosophy in life. I think that's a great point. You take a sandwich and you cut it in two. If you are the sole consumer of that sandwich, it is one sandwich. But if it's being dispensed amongst two people, it's two sandwiches. I think that's a great rule of thumb.
I don't agree with that. Not out of any like intellectual objection. It doesn't feel right, but I really respect it.
Man, there's no place for your feelings in science.
I never said I was a scientist.
This is science, Bill. This is we're doing empirical research into the effect of subdivisions on sandwich frequency.
I'm seeing it more as like an exploration of what constitutes the concept of a sandwich. In which case, there's a human element there, so feelings are totally valid.
That's fair. I'm going to use Rec Jensen's protocol from now on.
I have a question for this Artifexian.
Oh.
Is their name Rec Jensen or is it Rec Jensen? Because I read it as Rec Jensen and then you said Jensen. And I was like, maybe it is.
No, I think you're right. Bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Do you reckon that this person is Icelandic?
I do not reckon anything. I have no idea.
Just in general in life, I reckon nothing.
I just turn off switch there. Leave it off.
But yeah, so that was the sandwiches. And the last thing that I can quickly go through is Posh Cushions. I believe they made the show before because I remember remarking that it's a great username. But Posh Cushions mentioned that there is this thing called Dni. And it's a language, I believe, made for a video game called Riven. I don't have the link open in front of me, so I can't remember if those are exact right details. But they bring it up to say that it's someone made a base 25 numbering systems for that, and there is a page going through it. I'll leave links in the show notes. People can go check it out. I bring it up to say I find that the construction of their numerals, like the actual shape of the numbers, the glyphs, to be equal parts brilliant and equal parts awful, and I'm undecided as to whether or not I'm horrified or in awe of this. Because they're
okay. I gotta have another look at this.
So the way it basically works is the thing that I very much advocate for. You have sub bases in a number system, and so like, say you have a glyph for 1 and a glyph for 5. Your glyph for 6 will be a combination of 1 and 5, right? This permeates this number system, but the way the glyphs and that, I think that's great, but the way the glyphs are designed, they're so busy and detailed that like I could never see anyone actually writing with these glyphs ever.
Right.
It's weird. It's really strange. Now they look fantastic. I think they look really nice. Like I think if you were to make, they're little boxes with markings in them. If you were to like stitch together a couple of these boxes, you'd make a really cool bit of like abstract modern art.
Yeah.
As a writing system, I don't think these are all that great. What do you think?
I think it's a very information efficient system and it's really elegant. But I think it is probably not very practical for writing. Yeah, they'd be hard to write, and people would simplify them over time.
For sure. And like why the box? Why is the box even there? If you get rid of the box, it's already a massive. All right, I get why the box is there, because so you can stitch them together and make little nice units. But like, you eliminate the boxes, you've already you're well on the way to simplifying. And then you turn the internal workings in the boxes, you turn them into basically cursive, and then I think you get a number system that I think would actually naturally evolve. But it is interesting, and base 25 is not a normal number system. Like it's not one that comes up an awful lot. So people should go check it out.
For sure. All
right, and then so the last thing, Bill, I think is you.
So got a Reddit comment from. Oh, I've closed it. Hold on. From Aster the Dragon.
Great username as well.
Very good username. Asking me, when I start world building, do I have any idea of the stories that I would want to write in the setting? They're a big fan of the podcast and the videos, but they don't seem to know how to create a world unless they have an idea of what to do with the setting. So that, they need to have a story to hang the world around. I don't know. I think for me, my world building is more driven by an idea, like an idea for a setting. So this would be a cool thing to have in a society, or this would be a cool concept to explore. And I think the stories are more secondary to that.
Really?
I think so. I don't know. Why does that surprise you?
Because I would have had you pegged as a story first person.
Yeah.
And then the world just happens around it because, yeah, you see, from everything you've written on the podcast, you seem to be like mad into your characters and you're constructing their lives and things. Like, it seems bizarre that you sat down and worked out, oh jeez, what's the name of your planet called? It's not romance, what's it called? Cairn. It seems weird that you would sit down and work out Cairn in detail and then create stories. I think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think I start with like a germ of a concept and put people in that to see how they develop, and how they develop tells me more about the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, when you go to write for the podcast, what do you do? That's a bit of a nebulous question. Let me rephrase. Actually, there's a podcast coming up. How do you, like clockwork, produce some sort of story? Like, what's the process you go through?
It varies a lot. Sometimes I'll have, like, at one time I might have an idea for the next 3 episodes.
All right.
So I might have something in January, and that'll tell me what's going to happen in February and March. Or it might be the night before recording, and I'm desperately looking through the prompts heading on /worldbuilding to try and tell me what it is I want to write for this month.
Oh, so you use /worldbuilding as a sort of stimulus?
Sometimes I look at the prompts. Yeah. Now, what I don't often go with that, but once or twice I've gotten good results out of it. Yeah, I think it's kind of an organic thing that I start off with the germ of an idea, of a world building idea, and then I put characters in that, and what they do kind of takes me towards how the rest of the world is.
Huh.
And then I repeat that process. Yeah, I think that's it. And I mean, it's always informed by what my other passing interests at the time are. Like, a few months ago when I wrote about the civil disturbance in Lansk, that was because I had been thinking about the Peterloo massacre, which I had recently learned about and gone to a load of exhibitions about. And I mean, that informed a general interest of mine in kind of the history of labor movements and stuff. But
I still maintain, or I still think back on that episode, and I'm still blown away by the fact that the genesis of that was Peterloo. Particularly because we were, at that time, man, it was just after the Portland riots and Hong Kong was going on, and I was like, oh, Bill's been watching the news, like, clearly disinformed. It's like, no, he looked way back into history, and that's the genesis. That was crazy.
I like my historical fiction. I like period dramas. What can I say?
I was really relieved, actually, when you did say Peterloo. Yeah, Peterloo. Because when you sent me the thing before we started recording, or before you read it, I was prepared for like a political discussion, like a what's the word? Contemporaneous political discussion. I was like, oh, this is never going to end well, and I was really dreading it. And then you said Peterloo, and I was like, oh, a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. Everything's fine. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. That's mad that you seem to just be able to get the ideas fairly okay. Like, I know a lot of people who like writing, and it's just getting the initial idea is really tough for them. And yeah, there's an awful lot of like, I wrote it for ages, nothing good happened, but you seem to just always churn it out. Like there's no tomorrow. I think that's really cool.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because I do struggle with like coming up with something a lot of the time, and there's been a few occasions where I've not really been that happy with what I've written, or I didn't feel it kind of captured what I wanted it to capture. But my stuff usually seems well received by you and by the listeners. So
everyone loves Bill.
That's very nice to hear.
What's harder, creating like world building and stories, or getting the initial ideas for those, or getting the initial idea from music?
See, I was always writing stories and stuff when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, and I didn't start composing till I was a little bit older. So I think in some ways the writing, the words and world building is a little bit more natural to me.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Your chosen career is not the thing that you feel most natural with.
Well, I wouldn't know if I'd go that far, but sort of.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, that's interesting. I always found getting the initial idea for writing music to be really tough.
Yeah.
Once that initial idea happened, like the developing on that idea, like that's not that bad. But yeah, there's so often I'd be sitting in front of like my music software and be all like, nothing's coming out. I have nothing. Yeah. There is nothing in here, which is crazy.
That's one of the reasons I don't compose to software. I compose at the piano.
Oh yeah. I should have done more of that, to be fair. Really, I don't know if I should bring this up. How far are we in? I suppose we do. It is on us to record as much as possible, given how late we are.
Yeah.
But just a quick thing that's come across my radar that I would like to complain to you about. On the subject of music, you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Yeah.
Have you heard about his music comments that he's been making for like the best part of a decade, but they've come up recently again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah.
For the listeners, I love the exasperation. For the listeners, Ben Shapiro has stated, and has repeatedly stated, that rap music is not music because, according to his father, who studied music in like a music conservatory, music is made up of harmony, melody, and rhythm, and it's not music unless you have most, if not all, of those things. And for him, rap only has rhythm, ergo it's not music. It's more like spoken word. And it's I don't know if that seems intuitive to people. Maybe it does seem intuitive to people, like straight off the bat. But when you've studied music, it is such a broken way of defining it, and also like so meaningless. Like that he would like die on this hill of like definitions of music. It's so stupid. Like, what is music? Who cares? But it's been coming up lots, and it's just it's so funny watching people lose their minds about it. It's hilarious.
I, for one, am shocked. I thought from everything else about his persona and his public behavior, I thought he would have been a huge fan of hip hop.
I mean, clearly what's going on is that the people who produce hip hop music do not align with him, both in terms of culture and ideology, for the most part. And so he is clearly adverse to that genre, and he's trying to frame it in a sort of pseudo-academic sense to justify his aversion. He should just be honest and be like, I think it's crap, and that's fine. Like, that is totally fine if you were like, I think rap is crap. Everyone is entitled to that opinion. But to be all like, it's not that I think it's crap. It is like rigorously, if we rigorously apply definitions, it is crap, and that's just nonsense, I think.
Yeah. It's a rationalization. He has his conclusion, and he has decided to how to make the argument come to that conclusion. It's a nonsense. It's an abject nonsense.
It is,
and it's just total Western art music tradition chauvinism, but also bad at that because it's ignorant of so much within that tradition and that canon of work that it invalidates his own point.
Oh, for sure. Like, obviously, and for everyone he's talked to doesn't have the Western art music training to be able to correctly rebuttal him. But I'd love if someone was like, oh, so given that definition of yours there, Shapiro, what do you think of the work of Stephen Reich? You know, and like because if he knew who that composer is, like he would reevaluate his definition straight away. Or like Ligety's Fluxus. Yeah, works. Like, dude, is that not music? No, again, listen. I'm sorry. This is very kind of nerdy music stuff. Point is, even within Western art music, there are many examples of like just rhythm pieces that Ben would definitely include as music because they're made by like his people, like people who look like him and are kind of like, you know, hoity-toity white people and all sort of jazz. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway, back to the point about music. I think a good definition of music was one that you gave on the show, I think, Bill, a few years ago.
Sound ordered over time with artistic intent?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
And not exclusively linguistic. I think that would have been part of it as well.
Not exclusively linguistic?
Yeah, so that there's an element other than pure language to it. So that means that there's a distinction between just reciting a poem or just saying the words of a poem. Although maybe that's not necessary because, you know, you have to deliver those with kind of rhythm and cadence. So I don't know. But yeah, sound organized over time with artistic intent.
Yeah, I think that, well, actually, maybe just sound organized over time, because would we call birdsong music?
I wouldn't.
Would you not?
No.
Why?
I don't know. It seems like a human activity with a different intent behind it.
Okay, so music. Okay, so no matter how much birds might sound like little musical instruments, music is really a human thing.
I mean, I don't know. There is a field of zoo musicology. I don't know enough about it to get too much into that.
Is there a field of zoo musicology?
There's a field of zoo musicology, yeah.
That is, oh man, humans.
I'm almost positive.
Humans are the best of people, man.
It's pretty great, isn't it?
Anyway, yeah. So I think that's a good. We might quibble over the with artistic intent thing, but overall, that's quite a good definition of music. But fundamentally, it's like, what is art? Like, these are questions that are kind of meaningless to be worrying about. And it's
art
hilarious.
Art is paintings of naked ladies on the walls of big houses.
Yes.
That's what art is.
That is exactly what art is, 100%. And yeah, so it's fun that Shapiro is like so dogmatic with this like broken definition, when like the notion of being dogmatic to definitions to do with art is just, it's just silly. Like, it's just so silly.
12 Tone has a good video about this. A good rebuttal.
12 Tone's rebuttal is I don't know if good is the right word, man. It's a rebuttal, and it is solid, but it's so music nerdy that it's only ever gonna. It's convincing no one. Like, all the music nerds know that this is nonsense with Shapiro. We don't need to be throwing all this, to have all this technical language thrown at us. But the people who aren't music nerds, his description of things is just so over the top that they're never going to see the daylight there. It needs to be way more simple. Like, I think what we said here, like, how about this definition? Sounds organized in time with artistic intent. You know, and then people can weigh those things up. But going into advanced theory and stuff, it doesn't do the cause any good.
Okay.
Links in the description to that video.
Yeah.
It's good. All right. Okay. So that is follow up and pre-show on the like. Will we stop and save? I'm going to get some Lemsip and another Strepsil.
Yeah, I'm going to make some tea and watch your video.
Excellent. I will see you in about 5 minutes. All right.
See you. Well, the video is probably longer than that, is it?
I'll see you in about 10 minutes.
See you in about 10 minutes. Good luck.
Okay. World building.
Do you want to start with world building?
Yeah, let's start with world building. Do you want to start with world building?
I'm happy to start with world building.
Let's do some world building. What do you got for us this week, Bill?
This month, I have a map.
A map?
Indeed I do.
Links in the show notes, everyone. For those who can't go visual with this podcast, do you want to paint a word picture there, Bill?
So this is a map of Lansk. which is the city that I've put my last few writings in.
In Cairn. On Cairn.
In Cairn, yes, it is one of the cities of the spires sort of culture, the Abesque culture. Okay, so roughly in this map, I've got a river that runs from the top left. It runs kind of diagonally. It's aligned north roughly towards the top. So it runs kind of southeast and then turns, so it's running more directly east and then turns towards the south again.
Mm-hmm.
On the northern bank and a little bit on the southern bank of this river, there is a city. And there is a large bridge spanning the river. There's an island in the middle, which one of the pillars of the bridge goes into. This map is somewhat abstract. It's not a drawing or a very precise like cartographic representation, but it's a layout of the city. The notable thing about this city is that it is populated by several large towers. There are 7 marked here on the map, and I have numbered them, and it may not seem logical the way in which they're numbered or that they're laid out on the map. That's the order they were built in.
Okay.
So they're numbered from oldest to newest.
Right, and again, for those who can't see, the illogical order is kind of like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7 on one side of the river, and then you have like 5 on the other side of the river.
Yes.
Yeah, so it looks a bit funky. So yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. To the left, or I guess to the west of the bridge along the riverbank, are the quays.
Mm-hmm.
To the west of that, there is a field, and on the far west of the field, there is a hill. These are the ones mentioned in the writings from before, from the civil disturbances in Lansk. That field is where the demonstration took place, and the hill is the hill behind which the Marines assembled. And the militia had surrounded that field to stop the crowd getting out, or to stop people getting in, to be able to tell them about the Marines assembling. And there's 3 company depots dotted around the city. In the north here, between towers 4 and 6, the kind of northern end of the city, we have the Tamar Company Depot.
Mm-hmm.
To the east, we have the Valdin Company Depot.
We haven't heard about the Valdin before, have we?
I don't think we have, no.
Yeah, no, okay, cool.
And then on the southern side of the river, to the east of the bridge and the 5th tower, there's the Eltian Company Depot. And
again, I don't think we've heard of those people either.
I don't think we have, no.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Those are the 3 companies that have a presence in Lansk.
Sure.
And what else do we have here? Oh yes, you can see that I've given sort of rough outlines around the towers, and then in some of their areas. What that is, those are the different districts. They're largely situated and organized around towers, around the spires. So they would be kind of have grown up as areas for warehouses and housing for the construction of the towers. And then once the building was complete, the people would kind of stay on living there, and the warehouses would become repurposed for other materials or would become businesses or whatever.
Sure.
The Abesque as a culture don't care all that much for ground infrastructure. Like, they don't build roads across the continent or anything. They lay out their cities in a somewhat ad hoc fashion, and then anything long distance is done by air.
Okay.
Yeah, and the construction of the towers is a pretty large undertaking. It's a large it's very costly, and it's a large project, and they're usually financed either by sort of roughly like aristocratic families. Mm-hmm. Would kind of be a close analog, or in more recent years by merchant houses and wealthy licensed prospectors and things like that. So they would build the tower, and they would kind of build the district around it as a work camp, and then they would remain as landlords or as owners for most of the district. So there's a slight kind of not quite feudalism to it, but it wouldn't be a million miles off either. Like they kind of are very powerful within the districts of the spires they've constructed.
What's the purpose of the spires? Like, why have all these towers?
It's a symbol of wealth, and also like the Abesk are better at construction than any of the other cultures. So it's they're kind of showing off their knowledge and their power.
Well, so they have no practical use.
Well, like people live in them.
Okay, all right. So are they like high rise like apartments sort of thing?
Yes, the upper levels would be where the wealthy live.
Okay, all right, okay. And what's going on in the lower levels?
There would be cheaper accommodation, and there would be businesses, and there would be lots of different purposes, warehouses and things like that.
Okay. So it's like swanky penthouse suites for the rich people, and they keep putting up these towers because rich people want more swanky penthouses to live in.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's cool.
But as I said, historically, the wealthy would have built them for themselves. It's not like you know, it's not quite the same as building a new apartment development. With one exception here.
Oh, what's the one exception?
The most recent construction, marked 7 on the map, called the Bundle, which is actually it's 5 towers.
Oh.
And that was built by a merchant house. Do you remember Baron Te Einthof, who I referred to in the last 2 writings, who's the bailiff of Lansk? That would be his family. They financed and constructed this group of 5 towers and the district around it. And it's called a bundle because they're quite close together, and there are connections. There are like cable cars and things going between the towers around the outside, and then connecting the 4 outside ones to the tallest central tower.
Oh, cool.
So it looks like they're lashed together, kind of.
They're the towers, right? You seem to have some sort of sense of scale here on the map.
Yes.
Like there appears to be bigger towers and smaller towers. Am I correct in thinking that tower number 1 is the smallest and tower number 5 is the biggest?
Tower number 5 is the one that is probably the highest because it is built atop a hill. But the tallest one from base to its peak is number 4, the Great Tower. So I'll just go through and I'll list these off.
Yeah, go for it.
So tower number 1, which you can see here down by the river to the east of the bridge, is called the First Tower, and it is 53 lengths high, and it contains 30 floors.
Oh, come here. What's a length?
So a length is a unit of measurement used in the Abesk culture, which is roughly the height of a tall man.
About 6 foot.
No, much more.
A bit more, actually, yeah. Tall. What are tall people? Like what? 6? A very tall person would be like 6'5" and above, wouldn't they?
In our gravity.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, so 53 legs.
And has 30 floors. Then to the east of that, there is the Old Tower, which is the second tower built in Lansk, which is 61 lengths tall and contains 35 floors.
Mm.
The third, the Grand Tower, is built to the north of the quays, 78 lengths in height and 40 floors.
Sure.
The Great Tower, the tallest one we have here, they were built around the same time, the Grand and the Great Tower, and they both wanted to have sort of a impressive name, and the Great Tower just outperformed the Grand Tower and is the tallest one we have. Is 88 lengths in height and has 45 floors. The High Tower, here to the south of the river, built atop that hill, is 70 lengths from base to peak and 36 floors. The New Tower, which is the northernmost one here, is 66 lengths and contains 38 floors. And the Bundle, as I said, is a complex of 5 towers. the shortest being 52 lengths and the tallest being 70 lengths, and they have between 30 and 40 floors.
Real quick, sorry, it's a bit of a tangent here. Beside, what's number one? Beside the first tower, you have a region called the Bolt. What is the Bolt?
So it's the Bolt.
The Bolt. What is the Bolt?
Yes. That's like built on you can see it's built on sort of an island there. A delta where those streams turn into the larger river. Mm-hmm. And that's just a really marshy island that gets constantly flooded and stuff. So that's like a really, really poor area. Wooden shacks built on stilts and things.
Okay, cool. What is the wealthiest area on this map?
On the ground level, they're all pretty equal.
Right.
Because the wealthy live in spires.
And are all the spires the same? Well, no, they can't be the same. Surely, everyone wants to live in the Great Tower.
No, not really. I mean, the first tower has the prestige of being the oldest.
So where is prime real estate?
Atop, like high up in any of the towers.
High up, and they're all kind of equal.
I mean, there would be other like affiliations that would decide which one you'd prefer and stuff.
Right.
I'm sure like the wealthy, the old money would consider the bundle to be kind of gauche and nouveau riche, perhaps. The bundle, incidentally, is where what was the guy whose point of view we read from last month? That character has
just Bill. You made up the character, like.
Oh, I know. Sorry, not last month. The previous episode, the first one we had about the riot. Dajag has apartments in the bundle, on the kind of the southern end. So that's why he had a good view of the field to see the riot.
Oh, excellent. Speaking of good view of the field, what sort of scale are we talking here?
To walk from, say, the old tower to number 2 to the field to the hill would be about like 15-20 minutes.
Oh, so it's quite small. It's quite compact.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, like a 20-minute walk is like again, assuming that these people's gait is the same as ours or relatively same. 20 minutes is like
not.
2 kilometers. So they might go, if they go a little bit more, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers maybe. That's quite small, man.
Well, I mean, it's like let's say like if it was a square, it would be 1.5 miles on a side.
Okay.
Which is like I don't know. That's the guts of what London was around 1600.
Oh yeah, that's fair. I suppose I'm used to thinking about cities being these massive sprawling things. They were not always that. That makes sense.
And it's quite densely populated.
Population?
I haven't worked it out.
Okay,
but dense.
You said Tower 7 or Tower 7, the bundle, were the newest construction to have occurred. Is there plans underway for a Tower 8?
Almost certainly.
So these are things that are just continuously being put up.
Yeah, I mean, like the first tower, it was centuries old, but I guess their economy has accelerated in the last couple of generations, so it's becoming there is more concentration of wealth and more willingness to use that wealth for works like that.
Okay. And paint a word picture here. What do these look like? Like what building material, etc.
So like stone and brick largely.
Okay, and like they're just like square, like big giant rectangles.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Some of them would be. Some of them would be little more circular or kind of irregularly shaped, and they would they get gradually thinner as they get higher.
Okay.
So they tend to be broader at the base, not quite like conical or pyramidal or anything, but just wider at the base just for stability, and then that allows them to get quite high.
Like the Burj Khalifa.
Sure.
I mean, like it's not entirely not accurate. It's wider at the base. It tapers. It's not
So
exactly
lots of
square. It's
things.
conical in many parts. Well, not conical. Sorry, cylindrical in many parts. Is there a real world building that you would be modeling these off?
I had some real world inspiration to help me get an idea of scales and things for this sort of approximate level of technology. So the tallest building in the world, as far as I could figure out, in the year 1800 was the Strasbourg Cathedral, the spire of the Strasbourg Cathedral, which was 142 meters high. The world's tallest brick minaret is the minaret in Qutb, or the Qutb Mosque, which is 73 meters. And in the city of Bologna in Italy, they had a historical thing of building massive towers, and the tallest of those is 97 meters.
Oh wow! Okay. Oh, that's mad! It looks shocking Assassin's Creedy.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Look
absolutely.
at that.
But these were built in like the 1100s, I think.
Man, some of these are super lopsided.
Yeah,
It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's crazy.
yeah.
Would the towers look a lot like these?
Some of them would, yeah. They'd be broader.
Okay.
They wouldn't be as, or at least they'd be broader at the base, and they'd have more going on in them. They wouldn't just be kind of like a rectangular box.
Okay, I'll leave a link in the
Cuboidal
show
box.
notes so people go check it out. These are cool looking.
It's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, in Bologna. Interesting. All right, cool. Any further bits on that?
I don't think so. No, I think that's most of it. Oh yeah, people also live on the bridge. So the bridge is like, if you ever look at what the historic London Bridge was like, there were houses built on the bridge. So this bridge is, again, quite a large affair. And I mean, like, river vessels are easily able to pass underneath and through it. And people live on buildings constructed on the bridge and within the structure of the bridge itself and on the island below it in the middle.
Bill, you know what you said that there were houses on London Bridge?
Yeah?
Why did they go away?
Because it's an awful idea.
I mean, is it an awful idea? What's?
Well, I mean, that's a load of extra weight to put on a bridge, which you could not have all that thing there and it would be able to take more traffic safely. And also, you would have to build it like really, really like broad to avoid having terrible congestion on it, which historically had happened. Like London Bridge was extremely dangerous to try and cross.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was really dangerous because there would be like people trying to drive cattle across it and people trying to bring carts across it and pedestrians and then just houses and shops and stuff all around. So it was a mess.
Was London Bridge conceived of as being a place where housing would be present, or did people just kind of like build houses on their own volition without like planning permission, things like that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
What's the story in Lansk here? Is this has this bridge been designed to take houses, or have people just moved in because of the density of population?
It was designed to have construction on it, yeah.
Okay.
Now, it does also still have problems with congestion and things and people trying to cross over. But as I said, the city is put together on a fairly ad hoc basis. There isn't a lot of central thought about the planning. And, you know, they think of things in aerial terms very much because they have access to aircraft.
Yeah.
And there are obviously like ferries and stuff that operate as well. You know, individuals will own a boat and they will take you across the river. But also that's looked down upon a bit.
But I'm assuming though air travel and like travel by on water would be a rich person's shtick, wouldn't it?
Not to get a ferry across the river wouldn't be that expensive. No,
but to have air travel.
Yeah, like, I mean, people wouldn't tend to take long journeys anyway. I mean, it would be like taking a long boat journey in historical Earth. That would be an expensive enough thing unless
Right.
you wanted to work your way.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
And yeah, so people from the Abesk culture would not tend to go on long river trips because that's more of a Earthani
thing. Okay.
The Earthani river traders, it's kind of that is their medium, and the Abesk don't like to sully themselves with mucking about on water.
Excellent. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love maps. Because I do things visually. I love having maps. So thank you, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Links in the show notes, as always, folks. You can go check it out. Shall we move on to a bit of Edgar videos? Some Edgar videos.
Let's move on to Edgar videos.
All right. So since the last time we recorded, how many videos have come out since the last time we recorded, Bill? Now it occurs to me. What was the last thing we talked about in this show?
Oh, hold on. Let's find out.
We have show notes. We can have a look at this.
Oh, I was just going to look at the website.
Inventing a number system. So we talked about inventing a number system last time. I also released that hour-long thing.
My dog is barking her head off.
What?
I don't know if you could pick that up. My dog was absolutely roaring her head up. There she goes again.
Oh, how's your dog? What's your dog called? Bonnie?
Bonnie, yeah.
How is Bonnie?
She's got awful allergies.
Oh, has she?
Yeah.
Is she still representing the wrong family?
What?
No, the bandana. She was wearing the purple bandana and it was no good. It should be green.
Oh, well, she had to get a new collar.
Okay.
That says "Do not feed" because of her allergies. So we don't want her like going into other people's gardens and them feeding her because they'll give her stuff she's allergic to. And it's like a big thick purple collar with white writing saying "Do not feed." So yeah, she's back in the Ballers colours.
Ballers colours. That's no good, man. That's no good.
Yeah.
Grove Street for life.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Sure, we'll leave her in the podcast. She can be a guest. She can be a guest this month. What was I saying? Yeah, so we talked about inventing a number system, my collaboration with Mitch Haley of Conline Critic last time. Since then, I released that hour-long video of me counting. Not a whole lot to report on that, but I got some flack from people when I called it a post. It's being all like, don't be derogatory of your own work, Edgar. It's not a post.
Oh, that's nice.
It is nice, but I just want to bring up the posting for me. I love posting. Like, it is, posting is not a negative thing. I think it's a wonderful part of internet culture. So if I ever make a post, I'm genuinely really proud of it. And not like, I'm not being self-deprecating is the only thing to say about that. Other than that, there's not really much to talk about that video. It's just a whole lot of me counting.
So, sorry, for anyone who missed that, this was a video of you counting for an hour.
Yeah, I counted goats and sandwiches for an hour.
In Oa.
In Oa. It took so much time to make, man. I had to make, because so there's 4 number systems, or there's 4 sets of numbers. And I counted 256, like base 10, 256 in each of them. So that's 256 times 4. So that's the amount of slides I had to make for the video. It took so long. It was crazy. Like this high effort, low content posting.
So you made 1 kilo slide in computer science terms.
I made 1. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's go with that. I made 1 kilo slide. There was a lot. It was a bit mental. Anyway, so not a whole lot to talk about that. After that video, I just recently brought out hot and cold climates. So this is a continuation of the climate series. Links in the show notes, where I discuss how you might address creating a climate map if your planet is hotter and colder than Earth. Now, Bill, you just had a look at it. Is there anything you want to bring up before I launch into my one point that I think is salient?
Couple of things. The cold I thought was really interesting. The cold world. It was broadly it seemed more extreme than ours. Like the deserts were smaller, but the Mediterranean areas were larger, and a lot of the temperate areas seemed smaller, which was interesting. And the transitions were more rapid. It would like more suddenly going from the colder biomes to the hotter ones. Would you say that's accurate?
From memory, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. The hot I found really surprising, that the rainforests were smaller. That seemed totally counterintuitive. And the deserts were they acted really unexpectedly as well. Like the Sahara had a desert contained within a sort of a steppe area, which was kind of a grassland area, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I tried to find out why the hell that occurred. No idea. Absolutely no idea. Because usually those sort of anomalous things are down to elevation, and you're kind of like, that's what caused that thing. Not the case there. I've no idea why that occurs. So yeah.
Fair enough. The thing about the tilt. So you said that the northern hemisphere was tilted towards the sun, in the hot period that you examined, and the southern hemisphere was tilted away. Is that a thing that's independent of the fact it was a hotter world generally? Like that's not something that if it is a hotter world, there will be a different tilt or anything. I'm assuming it's totally independent.
It's totally independent. It just so happened that Earth was hotter, and the tilt aligned that way to kind of amplify that. But yeah, no,
the tilt was more extreme.
The what is that called? The precession of axial tilt. That's its own cycle that just does its own thing.
Great. And you have videos on tilt anyway, don't you?
I have one video which I still need to remake because it has that error in it, but that'll eventually will happen.
How long ago was the hot period you examined?
120,000 years ago, wasn't it?
120,000.
I think
it was. It's something in that kind of scale, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's not long enough ago for like continental drift to be a huge issue, right? Like the layout of everything is roughly the same, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the problems with, do you remember in the video I brought up that Earth was way hotter like 55 million years ago? One of the big problems with looking, like A, there's no data because it's so far back. And B, the continents are just doing all sorts of stuff. So it's really hard to say, like, even if there was data, it'd be really hard to say that this is occurring. Or why is this occurring? Could it be that like the oceans are doing whatever because of the different arrangement of continents?
The whole way through the video, I was thinking, it'd be great if there was a chart where you could see all of these side by side. And you did give one, which is linked in the show in the description for the video. Do you have one that also includes like our temperate Earth?
No,
in the chart.
No, I should do that. Hold on, making notes.
That would be very helpful.
Make temperate chart and link in show notes. Yeah, okay, we'll do. That's a good call.
And so all three side by side.
Yep, we'll do. You can thank Bill for that one, folks.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good. I think it's one of those kind of videos where I got something out of watching it, but I would really get a lot out of sitting down and working through it methodically. But it did that method that I absolutely love and I always support, which was kind of do it by inspection. I eyeball it and see, why does this make sense? What is the situation? You know, this is the latitude and the elevation and the currents, and then just like apply that more broadly and look at the reasons behind it. I mean, which I think is just it's a great method overall for world building. Yeah,
and there's no way in this instance of doing anything else. Like you have to just eyeball. There's no. I've never come across a methodology other than that. I have 1 point to bring up about it.
Sure.
2 points. One is that a lot of people were asked, why don't you explain a lot of what you're saying? As in, like, the rainforest shrank without any explanation as to why that occurred. And the answer for that is there is no explanation. I have no idea. And none of the sources gave any sort of explanation for it. So this is very much a kind of like outlining observations video as opposed to explaining those observations. Like I tried to explain like with Sahara and things where I could find stuff, but for the most part, all of this is unexplained, and that's a kind of it's unfortunate, but we all need to live with that. So nothing you can do about it. And the other thing I want to bring up is for those people who might be all like, oh, it's an awful lot of work, like what is this about? There is an alternative method that I nearly put in the video that I'm not massively fond of, but it is in the literature, and that is playing around with your cells. So, you know the way 3 circulation cells per hemisphere, Bill?
Biohacking.
Yeah? Biohacking.
Sorry?
But really quick tangent. I've been listening to people who are self-proclaimed biohackers. They're really odd people, like really strange people, and they seem to be like almost more into the nerdery of biohacking than actually doing something that benefits their health. Like there was this chap on Joe Rogan recently. I can't remember what his name was. But he was like going on about like, oh, I supplement with this and I take like these fungal compounds of whatever, and that's because it does this to my whatever. And then Joe asks him, do you exercise? And he goes, no. And I'm like, do you know, it's almost like this either like fitness pornography or health pornography, where it's like you spend lots of time sorting out and arranging your various supplement bottles and taking your pills, but you're not actually healthy. You're kind of conning yourself into it. It's weird. Those biohacking people are strange. I find them weird. That was my tangent. Back to it.
Yeah, that's no disagreement.
Back to it. Oh yeah, so it's 3 circulation cells per hemisphere. If we can roughly assume that the zone under the Hadley cell is like hot, the zone under the Ferrel cell is temperate, and the zone under the polar cell is cold, right?
Sure.
If for a hot world, we can, with a lot of hand waving, say that climates in hot zones will be preferred, right? Because the world is hotter. So you can kind of mimic this by just expanding your Hadley cell. So like, as in like making more of hot zone and shrinking the other two. And applying the same rules as is in the Earth-like planet climate video. And then for cold planets, you do the reverse. If it's cold climates would be preferred. So expand your polar cell and shrink the other two, and then apply standard Earth-like climates to it. This can kind of sort of sell the idea of this planet is hotter or colder, but you're going to miss out things like the greening of the Sahara, the introduction of cold deserts into Sahara. You're going to miss out those sort of things. So it's a really crude tool, but it's a thing advocated by your man Mark Rosenfelder in his Planet Construction Kit, which is one of the kind of seminal books in this sort of genre of ours. So that is a thing. So if you want to do that, you feel free to do that. Cool. Those are my 2 points.
Awesome.
As is customary, we have some Bank of Artifexia.
Sure do.
The triumphant return of Bank of Artifexia, and in a shocking plot twist, one of our contributors today is a chap known as Bill McGrath.
Yeah. Who knew?
Who knew? So do you want to talk through your contribution to the Bank of Artifexia?
So as anyone who follows us will know, I was in South America for the last half of February and the first half of March. And I brought home some money from that. I brought home some... oh, wait, actually, hold on. Oh. I thought you had this other country as well. Anyway, I have 2 banknotes with me.
Oh, okay.
The first one that I have sent you is from Uruguay.
Uruguay?
Yes, so it is a Uruguayan 100 peso note.
Very cool. Do you know anything about the chap on the front here?
I'm trying to find this out here now.
While you're Googling, folks, what I find a bit weird here, and maybe it's just my ignorance, is that this 100 peso note, the pesos, are marked with a dollar sign, which is really strange. Yeah. Is that a universal thing for pesos, to be marked with a dollar sign? It's bizarre.
I don't know. So the guy here that you can see pictured on the obverse is Eduardo Fabini, who was a Uruguayan composer and musician. His dates are 1882 to 1950. He died the day before his birthday.
Oh, that's terrible.
That sucks. Yeah, so what age is he? He was like 60. He was about to turn 68.
Oh, that's terrible. What sort of composer was he? Is he a Western art music composer, or what's the crack?
Yeah, I guess so. It says here on Wikipedia, works symphonic music, then choir and orchestra, singer and piano solo. So yeah,
that makes sense.
At the age of 4 years, his favorite toy was the accordion. Oh, that's very cute.
That's horrific.
Man, the accordion's class.
I don't think accordions are class. I think I'm on team they're cats in a bag. My father played accordion a lot, and it was hard to take.
Really?
Sometimes. Yeah, he played both he didn't play the classical accordion, but he played the button accordion and like the keyboard accordion. We had two knocking around the house, and it was just like, there's so many times I've been like, Dad, shh, it's okay. Just, you don't
That's
need to
awesome.
It's yeah, sure. 100 Uruguayan.
And what did he play on them? Did he play like folk music or?
He played like German folk music, like tunes he would have grown up listening to. And I suppose there was a bit of trad in there as well that he picked up, but he never really got on board with Irish trad music. He never really liked it. Yeah. It's like, and I mean, like, he played a whole heap of instruments. Like, he played the piano and he played a little bit of guitar. And he was mildly competent at the flute, as in like the silver flute.
Okay.
But would he play those instruments? No. It was always accordion. Accordion was his main bag. And it was like, of all the fucking instruments, father.
Go on, Edgar's dad. I love it. Yeah, so that's the 100 peso note.
So the 100 pesos, 100 Uruguayan pesos is, for people, is €240, which is, what is that? That is
$2.67.
$2.67, and then for our friends across the Irish Sea, where is British pounds?
It's about £2.07.
And it is 0.00036 in Bitcoin. Oh geez, Bitcoin's gone up. Bitcoin's gone up again. Second bubble incoming. Oh god is right. Cool, man. We should. I'm assuming we're going to meet up in your hometown for our Star Wars special in December.
Presumably, hopefully,
I would like to, if you'll have me. So maybe you could hand me over some pesos when I'm there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Woo. Now you made noise as if you have a second note incoming.
Yeah. Hold on, I'll just send this to you.
Okay.
And if you already have this country, I'm sorry. I thought that you had, but it's not listed on the map on the website. So maybe you just haven't updated the map, or maybe I'm wrong.
Argentina, Banco Central de la República Argentina. Pronounced terribly, I know. I'm sorry, Spanish speakers.
Almost certainly.
That is class. Do we know who this chap is? Jose de San Martin.
Yes. So he is like the big dude in the story of the liberation of Argentina from the Spanish Empire, as far as I understand, and I think a couple of other countries as well. Like Simon Bolivar. Oh,
I've heard about him. Yeah.
So yeah, he was like Bolivia and Venezuela, and I think the San Martin is a similar sort of figure for other parts of the continent. And I think they knew each other. I'm not sure. Because they were around the same time and they had similar kind of goals. And they are big into San Martin in Argentina. Like every place I visited had like a street named after him and stuff. So that's him on the front there. And on the back, that picture came out upside down for some reason when I sent it to you. So here on the back we have San Martin again. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing his name. I don't know where to put the stress. And according to Wikipedia, we also have Simon Bolivar and Jose Artigas, who's the hero for Uruguay, and Bernardo O'Higgins, which, first of all, is a fantastic name.
O'Higgins?
Bernardo O'Higgins, yeah. Yes. And this is actually really interesting. He's a Chilean guy, and I think he's the father of the Chilean Navy.
Huh.
I think he was big. He was big in the Navy. I'm just going to check that here. Navy. Yeah, he founded the modern Chilean Navy alongside Lord Cochrane, who's a famous British naval hero of the first half of the 1800s. So like the Napoleonic War kind of era and a little bit afterwards. And he's of Irish descent, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. O'Higgins, like.
Yeah. And there was a couple of people like that in the history of South America. There's someone else similar who I can't bring the name to mind, who was very clearly of Irish descent, who was a key figure in one of the independence struggles.
Huh. What brought the Irish to South America, of all places?
I don't know.
That's mad.
To be honest, I guess we went lots of places.
Bernardo O'Higgins. What a silly name.
Yeah. There were Irish-speaking communities in Argentina for a while. Just like there's still a Welsh-speaking community somewhere there.
Oh.
Che Guevara had an Irish grandmother, I believe.
Oh, I heard of that before, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, he was technically would have been eligible to play county for Westmeath or something.
To play county for Westmeath.
Apparently. Oh no, sorry, he would have been eligible to play on the Irish national team to his grandmother, I think.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a Lynch. He was descended from Irish Lynch people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Shay Lynch. 5 Argentine pesos are 0.76 euro. And then in dollar, that is 0.85 US dollars. Yeah, that's class. It's a mad looking note, man. It looks very like East Asian.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, it also looks like the Me and the Boys meme on the back, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, no, that's cool. It looks pretty cool. Thank you, man.
Not at all. Yes, I'll sorry, I thought you already had Argentina, but I wasn't sure. I'll hand this over to you next time I see you.
That would be amazing. Which is likely going to be Star Wars. Have you seen anything? Have you heard anything about the Star Wars thing?
Very, very little. I haven't watched any trailers. No, I don't watch trailers.
Okay.
I know there's men on the internet angry about it, so nothing new there.
Standard protocol. This is what happens.
Standard protocol.
I really hope it's like, I've adopted this sort of like everything is good attitude now, and like it's entertainment, it's fine, it's not high art, but I really hope it's a satisfying conclusion to the story, because like the last one, I know loads of people love the last one, but like you and I, we both really did not like the last one, and I hope it's a step up from that. I really do. Yeah,
but the thing I want to really stress here is, I know I was complaining about there were men angry on the internet about it, and I didn't like the film, but I liked it for almost the opposite reasons to all those angry internet men. Like
well, like it wasn't woke enough.
Well, no, it was just like, they were complaining that there was too many women and stuff in it, and I thought like a lot of the female characters were actually didn't actually have all that much agency, and the guys who messed everything up just got away with it. Like Finn and Poe, like set back the rebels or the Republic or whatever severely, and they were just like, it was fine at the end. They were just forgiven and trusted, and just I don't know. And it had so many. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm not going to go into it. We have a whole episode about this, so.
Yeah. My big thing that I still think is sorely missing from this new trilogy is like a cohesive bond between the characters. Like,
yeah.
I know we get an awful lot of Finn and Rey hanging out in the first movie, and I think that's really good for setting up a sort of like buddy dynamic. But like, your man Poe is kind of off doing his own thing largely. I don't feel invested in him as a member of this group. The last movie, they were really off doing their own thing, like all of the characters, and like I like, there's nothing wrong with
Rey
that.
and Poe have barely interacted at all.
Yeah, exactly, and they're meant to be like the central characters.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's just my big issue with it is I don't think the storytelling is of of great quality. Like I don't care about all the politics behind it and like, you know, the whatever what the female actors are doing with it. I don't really care about that. Like, but I just it's just not a story that is engaging to me, and I just hope this third one does something to bring all the things together and in a very satisfactory way. I hope. Anyhow, I have a note, Bill.
Yeah.
That has come from...
Oh, I suspect I know what this is, actually.
Yeah, because I sent you a picture, man. Of course you know what it is.
Before you sent me the picture, I had a suspicion of what this would be, and my suspicion was correct.
No way. How did you know that?
Because I saw an interaction on Twitter between you and the person who sent it to you. And I follow that person on Twitter, and I had seen where they had been on holidays recently. They had mentioned where they'd been on holidays recently. So I was like, I wonder, will it be from this place? And it was.
So for people who don't follow John Lang on Twitter, John Lang has sent the Bank of Artifexia a £1 note. But this £1 note, as in Great British pounds, comes from Guernsey, one of the Channel Islands. And I'm going to read out some of the things John Lang says. The first paragraph, they say, thanks a million for your contributions to the world of creativity, world building, and conlanging. And they say that they are a conlanger. So thank you for listening, and thanks for your kind words. Chief reason for my letter is to send you the enclosed banknote I acquired on my recent trip to Guernsey in the Channel Islands. It is a £1 note. As the Channel Islands are part of the United Kingdom, they use pound sterling as their currency. What's interesting, however, is the fact that the UK did away with the £1 notes in 1984 due to the phasing in of the new £1 coin. So this effectively means that the £1 note from Guernsey is not legal tender in the United Kingdom. You can't bring it into England or Scotland or Northern Ireland and use it because they all use the coin. And apparently as well, this is a rarer, some sort of rarer version of the note, which is kind of cool.
Cool.
Yeah, and interesting things about it. It's got this chap called Thomas de la Rue on the back, which is kind of a bit crazy because there's no queen on the back. That's sort of a standard of British notes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently de la Rue, according to Wikipedia, is found a de la Rue company, some sort of de la Rue company, and it's now the world's largest commercial security printer and paper maker. They mostly issue banknotes and other security paper, which is ironic because the security on the £1 Guernsey note is terrible. There's no foil, there's no foil line, there's no hologram, and John Lang says it looks kind of like Monopoly money. And
but is it printed by De La Rue? Because that would be a kind of a kick in the teeth that's his company makes banknotes, and he's on a banknote not printed by his company. That would be quite sad.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, John Lang says nothing about that, but
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, and then it goes on to say that if you were to try and use some Guernsey money in England or Scotland or Northern Ireland, you probably get funny looks, and that is, I think it's not a common thing, because isn't it that it's all sterling, but all the notes look different in like Scotland, Northern Ireland, Guernsey, the like, and every time you try and use them outside of the territories, it's like people look at you like you're some sort of weirdo. Isn't that the case?
Kind of. So I think banks can issue their own currency. There isn't like a central bank that prints all of the currency. Individual banks can print it for themselves, or maybe there's like one or two in each of the constituent countries. And I think, I think England and Wales have it together. I'm not sure about that though. But yeah, Scottish and Northern Irish money occasionally won't be accepted in England, because people won't be familiar with the notes.
Like, why don't they just issue all the same money?
I mean, I don't know. Why not issue different money? Like, they're separate countries, sort of.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
like Scotland has a different legal system and everything. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, if there's going to be a high level of devolution of power, then having your own money. Yeah, that makes sense.
English money will be accepted. English notes will be accepted in any of the constituent countries, I think. But trying to use Scottish and Northern Irish in England, people might not be familiar with what it is. I remember when I was living in York, there was a shop right by me that I would go to very often, and I went in to get just bread or something someday, and there wasn't that much change in the till, and the guy on the till who I see all the time and I was quite friendly with, he said, "Oh, sorry, I've only got Irish change. Like, I've only got Northern Irish change to give you back. I hope that's okay."
Huh.
And I was like, well, I'm not going to object to that, am I? Come on.
That's really weird. Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to John Lang for sending in the £1 note. What I find really cool about this Bank of Artifexia adventure is that people send in notes that I'm not expecting. Once I had gotten some English money, I was like, oh, that's that done. But then you become aware that there's so many little kind of oddities throughout the world, and little this subdivision has its own type of money, and here it is, Edgar, and I think that's really cool. That's awesome.
It is, and the crown dependencies are just super interesting anyway. Like, I don't really understand their status, because they belong to the crown, but they're not actually part of the UK, but they're not sovereign. They've no other representation. They're weird kind of medieval holdovers that still exist, which I find very, very curious.
I think you'll find that there's a fastly spoken CGP Cray video on all these things, for those who might want to know about these things.
Yeah. One of those, he uncritically uses the term British Isles in one of those videos. I think he may have issued a second video where he changes some of that around, but he definitely has one video with a couple of mistakes like that in it.
Yeah, no, he does. And he's talked about those mistakes before. I think we've talked about those mistakes before on this podcast.
I think we have.
Yeah. The British Isles thing, it's one of those things that, like, I don't know, it's almost like if you're not, like, Irish, it's one of those things that you really quickly slip into. And like, on no badness on the other person's part, like, they're not being mean or anything. It's just like, you've heard that term thrown around. You're like, oh, it must be British Isles. And then you're like,
sure,
actually, we prefer if you didn't call us British,
if you don't have the context for it, it's a totally understandable mistake to make.
Absolutely.
But I mean, if you're making a video like that, you should put in the research to avoid those kind of mistakes.
Sure. What I think another really funny one he had in that video about what is England or what is the United Kingdom, was that he coloured Northern Ireland orange, and like he had no idea, like, when making it, this is going to be in any way problematic, and then he was like, oh crap, and then, like, obviously through the comments realised what he had done, and he was like, oh no. And again, for someone who doesn't know anything about the culture, that's like, how can you avoid that? Like, it's such a like slippery one that, like, there's no way of avoiding it.
Oh, sure. Like, I'm sure we have done it 7 times in this episode already. We've done similar things.
For sure. Like, every time we talk about something that isn't Ireland, I guarantee you we're making similar mistakes without knowing it at all. It's a squirty one.
For sure.
But yeah, so that is Bank of Artifexia. Uruguayan and Argentine pesos, thank you, Bill. And £1 note from the fine island of Guernsey in the Channel Islands, courtesy of Con Lang. Not Con Lang, courtesy of John Lang. Thank you, John Lang. Do you have anything else to add, or should we wrap up?
I think we should wrap up.
Okay. So, as always, folks, thank you for listening. And again, apologies for the lateness of this episode. Check out the merch, support us on Patreon, and hopefully we'll record, like we said at the start, we'll record soon, and there'll be loads of content for you to get through.
Absolutely.
Cool. Until next time, Edgar out.
Edgar out.